Hey, what's up, guys? I'm in South Carolina, just visiting some in-laws, working remote. So the topic for today's video is how to be remote real estate investor, because I get it. You might live in an expensive real estate market. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you hear a lawnmower on the other side, my apologies for the audio, just forewarning you right now, but just want to shoot it live, okay? Man, I don't want to do any edits, just keep it authentic, just keep it real, all right? So bear with me, okay? So let's get back to the point. So you might be living in an expensive real estate market in which the price points of real estate is way too expensive, right? Or you might be living in a market in which there's not too many available inventory, or the type of deal that you want to purchase may not just be available, okay? The number of units or the size of the property, the type of cash flow, it may be non-existent. And if that's the case, then this video is for you, because I was in that situation. I used to live in New York City. Shout out to all my New Yorkers, New Jersey, tri-state area. And I bought my first property while living there. It was a duplex for $355,000. And the only way that I was able to acquire that property was through an FHA mortgage, because I only had to put down 3.5% and I had to occupy the property. But when it came to buying my next property, because my goal was to become a real estate investor before I turned 30 years old. So in order to buy my second property, and let's say I was going to buy another property in that same market, let's say another duplex, then my down payment in that scenario, if I bought another duplex for $355,000, would be a little bit above $70,000 just for the down payment, not including soft costs or closing costs. And I didn't make $70,000 a year when I bought that duplex. In fact, I was making around 39 to 50. I still don't remember the exact range, but it was somewhere within that range, between 39,000 and 50,000, based on overtime. So I used to work a lot of overtime as well, but my base pay was about 39. And the down payment required alone was well more than my salary. So I realized that, hey, one monkey don't stop no show. Okay, I understand that my backyard in New Jersey, the real estate is extremely expensive, so I'm not going to allow that to be an excuse as why I can't continue to invest. Okay, so I need to figure out something else. I need to figure out what market I need to invest in, and I did that. I went to networking events in New York City, and I networked with fellow real estate investors. And I remember one guy stood out. His name was Steve, and he came to the front of the group discussing a deal he just purchased. He bought a 6-unit out of state, and he was my age, and I was floored by that, to the point I had to approach this guy directly after the meeting and say, hey, let's go to lunch, let me pick your brain. I need to know your 3 M's: your money, your model, your market. He shared with me his 3 M's. I tapped into his Rolodex to get contact information for his mortgage broker, his deal finder, the whole 9 yards. Found my market. Okay, just want to give you some backstory. Now that I found my market, I then had to think about, okay, how can I be a remote real estate investor? Because I don't have that luxury to just up and fly or up and drive to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is where I invest, in West Pennsylvania. I didn't have that luxury just to, on a whim, just go take a trip there, right? To just take a look at the property or to show the units and so forth, okay? So I didn't have the luxury. So I had to think about, okay, if I'm going to invest in this market, what are the top things I need to do to be able to do this remotely, okay? Because I have a constraint, which is the location. The distance was too far. So these were the top things that I had to consider to invest in remote. The first thing was this: how can let me say it this way. You want to focus on 3 things: elimination, automation, delegation. All right, I'm saying as if it's showing up on the screen, but it's no edits. So I don't know why I did that. But first thing I had to think about is this: as a real estate entrepreneur, okay, being that there's several tasks involved with owning a property, how can I first and foremost eliminate some tasks that I normally do when doing things remote? Okay, so for instance, I would do this. One of the things I used to do was showings, right? You might think that, okay, when you have a property and you're showing it to a tenant, so you need to be there as the owner, as a landlord, to show the vacant units. So I decided, okay, well, how can I eliminate that? How can I eliminate a person being there entirely? So I decided to get a lockbox, have application on the counter, and I would share with the tenant that yes, I'll meet you there, let's say Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to show the unit. Now, what I did instead, prior to 4 o'clock, I'll just say, are you there? I say, hey, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm running late. I have the key in the lockbox, I should be there shortly. You can let yourself in. The code is 1234. So the tenant will go into 1234, and they'll confirm with me. I'll have them on the phone, just pretending as if I was on the road, like on my way there. And I'll say, are you in? They say, yeah, I'm in. Okay, great. So let me just walk you through it while I have you on the phone. All right, do you see the application in the kitchen? Yes, application. Okay, just take one there and just make sure you fill it out. And I'll just pick it up later. So that way we have your information. And by the way, the first person who gives a security deposit, I'll take the property off the market because money talks. All right, so what I would like you to do is fill out that application if you're interested, leave it on the counter, and you can leave a check, make it out to this name, blah, 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 and put it on the counter as well. Okay, so I will say this stuff on the phone. And I'll just say, okay, now being that you're in the kitchen, to the left, do you see the living room? Okay, do you see the stairway? Okay, you can go upstairs to the bedrooms, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, while you're there, let me tell you more about the neighborhood. Let me tell you about the bus, the transportation system, and anything else. And then I'll also answer any questions that they would have. Okay, so what I tried to do was eliminate the human element from showing a unit. Okay? To the point where I had this system down pat that tenants would just show themselves a unit. Now, occasionally, I will also have a human element, but I want to make sure that it wasn't me. So what I would do is if I already had a contractor doing some repairs, let's say they were doing painting or whatever, then I would say, hey, contractor, I want to have some tenants come see the unit while you're there painting. Make sure you put the applications there on the kitchen counter and just leave the door slightly cracked. And then the tenant will come in there, see the contractor will tell them that, hey, feel free to walk around, see the unit. If you have any questions, reach out to Juan later. And the application is right here. So that's all he had to do. That was pretty much the script. To the point where the system was down packed where I can do a single showing or group showings independent of me. So that's an example of elimination. So I thought about all the activities that are involved with owning real estate and seeing how I can eliminate some of those activities by being creative, right? So that way I can acquire multiple properties remotely. The second thing I did was this. I focused on automation. What piece of technology can I use to automate this process? Can I have a CRM with an email campaign? If people on Craigslist or what have you, and they're posting, or they're interested in properties, is there a way that I can automate the ads and so forth so my listings will be on the top? So that way I can get more interested people in my property so that I can show them and increase the likelihood of me getting a good quality tenant fast. Okay, so I wanted to automate a few things. Another thing that I automated was this. I used to work at 9 to 5 and I used to receive calls from tenants, right? And I was somewhat disorganized at first because, I'll have reports to do for my job, tenants calling me, contractors. So, and they might be texting me, email me, sending me phone calls, DMs on social media. So I was receiving so much communication from all over the place that I would drop things. Things would fall through the cracks. Just as a result of just me not having a good system. No automation. So I automated the phone system. So pretty much I told tenants, potential tenants, people who are looking at my ads for my rental properties, candidates in other words, and also my contractors. So anyone who contacted me from a real estate standpoint, I would give them my Google Voice. And I'll tell them, hey, call the Google Voice. And the Google Voice would be routed to, guess what? My office phone. I kid you not. So I'm using this water bottle as a prop. And so anytime they call my direct line, let's say my direct line in my office was 3487. Let's say that's my extension. They will call the extension and I'll pick up, and I changed my greeting to just say, hello, Juan speaking. Because when I worked at my job, if I just say Juan speaking, they don't know if that's a call that relates to the job, a client call, or if that was a real estate call. And if a real estate person called me, let's say my contractor, a candidate looking for a vacant unit or a tenant of mine, they don't know if they're calling my place of work, my job, or the landlord or whatever. So I just say, Juan speaking, how can I help? So I changed my salutation. And so I automated communication by making everything go through Google Voice. And also I encouraged them written communication, meaning to send me text messages on the Google Voice. So while I'm on my computer, typing away, doing my normal day job activities, I also have a tab up for Google Voice so I can see the voicemails. I can listen to the voicemail. I always had a headset on. It served two purposes. One, to make it seem like I'm going through a training or something, so that way my coworkers won't bother me, because I was intently focused on the job at hand or my real estate. So I had it in my ears to make them think that, oh, Juan's busy. Let me not ask him questions about, did he see the game last night? But secondly, I had my earphones in because I would listen to the voicemails, right? And then also read the text messages. And I also have the appearance that I'm actually working at my 9 to 5. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong picture that I'm shirking my responsibilities. Trust me, when I started working there for the government, I started off with $39,000, as I shared, and I ended up leaving. I think I was making $83,000 when I left. All right, so you don't go from 39,000 to 83. You don't double your salary by shirking your responsibilities. So I definitely worked hard. I was just smart enough to be able to do two different jobs at the same time and make sure that the work that I did do at both jobs, for the government and for real estate, was done with the highest performance possible. So I had to sacrifice talking at the water cooler, someone coming to my cubicle talking about the game, or office gossip, being a social butterfly. Those were the sacrifices I had to make, so that way I could be zoned in and focused and be impactful at both things. So I had to make sure I had adequate technology and automations in place to make this happen. Okay? Now, third thing, let's get into delegation. So you kind of heard me say that a little bit about delegation, right? One of the things I did for real estate was this, where one of the challenges I had with real estate, I'm just giving you different examples of these three things, right? Elimination, automation, and delegation. So it's not like sequential order where what I'm discussing is mainly just giving you examples of these three things. So let's go back to delegation. I used to bang my head about my operating costs, because I knew how much income I could receive per month, the rents, right? I knew how much my mortgage payment was going to be. I know typically how much my water bill would be. I'll just take an average. It's typically almost the same. Sometimes you might have some spikes, but it's pretty much the same amount you pay every month for certain utilities. And I knew how many property taxes, my insurance, these expenses were controlled. Okay? But when it came to repairs, it was variable. It wasn't a fixed expense. And it would mess up my cash flow, because some months my repair cost will be $2,000, sometimes it'll be $200. Because sometimes I'll have a contractor fix a furnace, right? He'll charge me $2,000. It might take him 2 hours to do. And then I'll have that contractor paint a room or paint the unit, and that would be $200, and it would take him 2 hours to do, right? And I used to rack my brain about how can I control this expense called repairs, the labor more particular, because with the materials, I can somewhat control that. I would buy all my materials from Home Depot. It was on a credit card, so I know I can pay like a certain balance every month. It was mainly the cost of labor, which was changing every single month. So I reached out to a good buddy of mine who's a real estate investor, and I shared with him my dilemma over dinner, and he started busting out laughing. He said, "Man, that's so easy to fix." I said, "Well, it's so easy, tell me." And he said, "Man, all you gotta do is pay that dude by the hour." I said, "Pay him by the hour?" He said, "Yeah, pay him by the hour." Because he's like, you gotta think about it this way. You gotta get in their head, right? As a contractor, they don't know where their next check is coming from. A handyman, general contractor, plumber, any vendor, subcontractor. Typically, if they're independent, working for themselves and not no one else, not a big company, they kill what they eat. So they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So they're trying to charge as much money as possible for every job they do. And some jobs that seem complicated to the landlord, they know they can charge more. But some jobs that are easy, like painting, they might charge less. He said, so what you want to do is tell that contractor, that general contractor, the handyman, that you give them a set number of hours per week. Let's say 20 hours a week guaranteed. And you negotiate a pay rate. Let's say $20 an hour, right? So that's what, $400 a week or whatever the math is, right? 20 hours times $20 an hour, right? That's $400 if I'm doing the math right in my head. And so you can guarantee him $1,600 a month. Now, this is the thing. You have to guarantee 20 hours a week. So if you have a repair in Unit A, you have a repair on Smith Street, you have a repair on your 6th unit around the block or around the corner, and let's say he only charged 12 hours. Then you want to fill up the rest of his time, those 8 hours, with other administrative stuff. Have him cut the grass, right? Have him show vacant units attendance. Have him show up to court on your behalf to be able to evict a tenant. Have him take you to the airport, if you need a ride back instead of paying for Uber, or you need him to drive you around town, right? Or if you're visiting because you're remote. So basically, have him be your boots on the grounds, your eyes on the property and so forth. Have him be your unofficial property manager, okay? If you are still the office person in which you're still typing up leases and stuff like that, have him be the boots on the ground person. So those are what I share with you guys. Those are 3 key things you need to focus on as a real estate entrepreneur. Elimination first, automation second, and then delegation third. And I just gave you just 3 different examples, all right? But there's many other things that you have to implement in order to be able to invest remote, especially if you were in my case, if you're buying properties in an expensive market, and let's say they don't have a bunch of multi-unit properties available. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can be a remote real estate investor, how to use creative financing, how to get into multi-units, multi-family, so that way you have enough passive income to say goodbye to 9 to 5, then all you have to do, my friend, is just check out the free training below. The link is in the description. All right, guys, as always, this is to your success. Continue to earn passively so you can live passionately. Take care, guys. Peace.